Good evening once more. I'm happy that we are back again. For today's lessons, we are going to focus today on the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe for a textual analysis. But then I'm still not very happy because the turnout of subscribers are still very low. So I want to say that if you're on this channel and you're taking the advanced level English language, you must push that subscribe button. Push that subscribe button so that you have videos at your beck and call. So at today's textual analysis, we are going to focus specifically on the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. We'll just get straight into it. Now, the reason for this lecture is because we can't find time. We just can't find time to sit down and read the story. So I thought it wiser we are going to have it. I'm going to walk you down the storyline so that you get to understand what the story is about, how to textually analyze it, and then look at advanced level questions. English language, that's textual analysis, possible questions that can be drawn using the Cask of Amontillado. Now, the Cask of Amontillado is written by Edgar Allan Poe, an American writer. And like the title goes, the Cask of Amontillado. Now, Amontillado is the name of an Italian wine, and a cask is something like you create. It's something like it's something like it's like a vessel where wine is stored in. So this one is called the Cask of Amontillado. Amontillado being a wine, especially native to Italy. So the story specifically takes place in Italy as a short story. And to understand short stories, of course, short stories it's a genre of its own. So you have to understand the rudiments of storytelling. That's plot and how to discuss plot, characterization, setting, style, as well as themes. 5 of them. They are extremely very important. It is all about these 5 elements of literature. So when we talk about the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, we are looking at a very, very short story. Why I find it easier to present this is as a result of its brevity. It's really very short, and that is why most advanced level students cherish the Cask of Amontillado, because it's less stressful as compared to other texts. So what is the Cask about? Now, the Cask of Amontillado is a tragic story that is riddled with a grim atmosphere, an atmosphere of suspicion, fear, death, murder, revenge. It recounts the events of this fateful evening between 2 friends, of course, very close friends, bosom friends, Montresor, whose lenses the story is revealed through the first person pronoun. So Montresor gets to tell us about his experiences and how he killed his friend Fortunato. Now, Fortunato happens to be the victim of Montresor. Now, let's start by looking at their names, what they mean. Now, Montresor, you can be able to feel that the name Montresor, it tells us that if we have to interpret the name Montresor there, if you ask the French, they will tell you that it means something you hold with high esteem, something you cherish, something you love. And it tells us just how much Fortunato cherishes his friendship with Montresor, given the number of times he hugs him down there at the carnival. And even when he toasts the Medoc, he drinks it and celebrates his friend Montresor. It tells us just how much he holds Montresor with that high esteem. But then Fortunato, his own name, what does it mean? Fortunato. Now, it's an Italian name which means somebody who brings fortune, somebody who has fortune. Quite an irony there, given the way he died. So we will observe that irony is a very, very important aspect of style which Edgar Allan Poe has deployed in the course of the storyline. So let us get into it straight away. Now, when the story opens up, we encounter this lone speaker who tells us that 1,000 times that my friend Fortunato has insulted me, I have borne them all. But then when he dared insulted my family name, I swore revenge. So the open line establishes the tone of the short story. It is revenge literature, more than it's just all about taking that revenge and taking it in the most brutal of ways. And Montresor tells us that you well knows the content of my heart, that when I swear my revenge, I do it and I do it perfectly well. I do it so well that it is felt. Now, we don't know the insults that Fortunato heaped on him, but he tells us that Fortunato had insulted his family name, and so he swore to take his revenge on Fortunato. And the least suspecting Fortunato is out there thinking that his friend will join him, not knowing that he had been mad for bed. So once he tells us this, he then moves down to the carnival. We learned that we are in the carnival season in Italy, and there's a carnival going on at the same moment with people dancing, drinking, celebrating the streets of Italy, where the name of the street is not given. But what we do know is that Montresor encounters his friend Fortunato, a participant to this carnival. And how was Fortunato dressed? He was dressed in a motley. Now, motley is a kind of costume that people who play clown will likely wear. Those who go to amusement park to amuse children, play around, play the jester, they usually appear in motleys and with a kind of cap that has bells on it. We call it coxcomb. So that was the outfit that Fortunato is dressing. If I can show you my own picture reference here in my textbook, you can see, well, I don't know if it's that clear. So that is our guide Fortunato. You can see the outfit on his body and the cap. That is what we call a motley, that outfit he is wearing. So he is dressed in a motley and he's out there participating in the carnival. And when we encounter Fortunato, the narrator tells us that he was already drunk. He's had too much to drink already. And the fact that he's already drunk tells us that his physical appearance gives us insight into the role he's going to play. Of course, he's going to play the role of a fool. That explains why he gets murdered so easily. He was so unsuspecting of Montresor. So Montresor comes in and meets him and tells him that, my friend, nice meeting you. It's been a while. How you doing? All of that. And so after they must have exchanged, pleasantries and all of that, Fortunato is happy to see his friend. But then Montresor puts up a bait. He tells him that I have this cask of Amontillado, your favorite wine, which I bought, but then I doubt it if it is the real one. So I would have loved to have you test it for me. But then, from what I can see, you are already drunk and you're not looking too well. So maybe I'll go to Lucchese. Lucchese is another character who would probably taste my wine. And when he says that, he already knows that he has already laid the bait, and Fortunato will pick it up. And of course, he fell for it. And Fortunato tells him that, no, my friend, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What does Lucchese know about wine? I am your man. Let's go down there. Let me have a taste of the Amontillado. And so he smiles and he tells his friend that, no, don't worry. Lucchese can do it. He knows that Fortunato will not let him go for Lucchese. So it was just a bait that he has laid out there, more or less a trap. And Fortunato fall head over heels into it. Then he now takes Fortunato and leads him to the Montresor castle, or the residence of the Montresors. But then this same speaker tells us that he knows servants. Domestic servants are very creepy and secretive. They are always so eager to go do stuff for themselves, but then they look for the slightest opportunity that the master or the mistress is not at home, so they can scale the fences and go do one or two things for themselves. So Montresor tells them that he is going out. He's going to spend the whole night out, and he'll be back very early in the morning. None of them should go out. He knew that as soon as he tells them his schedule, they would leave. So it was a way of manipulating them into going away, deserting the house, thereby making it the appropriate or perfect setting for the perfect crime. So with no one in the house, the stage is set for the murder of Fortunato. And there was he coming like a cattle being drawn to the butchery to be butchered. And the guy was there. Was this suspecting? And so when they got to the Montresor castle, Montresor tells him that it is down the catacombs, or down the vaults. Now, we do learn that in the ancient times in Europe, most of those families, especially the very rich ones, will have their personal vault or burial tombs for ancestors of that family, where when an elderly or a member of the family dies, they don't have to go to an external cemetery. They usually dig up some vault or crypt, dig down below the basement of the building, where such a member will be laid to rest. And so the Montresor, the generations of Montresors who have been dying have been laid down there. So there's a huge pile of human skeletons and bones down there, what we call catacombs. So he tells his friend that, of course, the Amontillado is down there, come with me. And the two friends continue to go down. They go down so deep. They go so deep. But then What I don't understand, why would Fortunado go that deep just to test wine? I mean, it should have struck a note in his mind to ask his friend that why will you go so, why will you descend so low just to store up a cask of wine? It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And so we can also see a picture reference of the steps that the two men had to descend. So these are the steps of the Mount Tresor Castle. And so they descended so low that the descended so low that the air there began to feel so thick that even the torch that they had. Now we'll talk about torch, not the modern torch. In those days, these guys had these they call them lamps, these little sticks with some combustible kind of material around the head. As soon as you touches it closer to the fire, it picks up the flame and it begins to burn. So they've used it to trace their way down there, down the vault. So they keep going down. The air has become so foul and so thick that it almost smooches out the fire. It was that thick. And they kept going. They kept going so deep that the whole area was so dark and damp. And we are told that Fortunato could even feel the wet, damp floor, which means that they've gone so low that water is almost beginning to come up. And then there are so many cobwebs around. Now, while he's going there, Montresor discovers that Fortunato is actually struggling to catch his breath. He has been coughing all this while. So he picks up a bottle of Medoc. Medoc is another kind of wine in one of those casks lying around. So he throws it up over to Fortunato behind him, who grabs it, knocks up the cork, and in one swipe, he clears it up, toasts the bottle away, and he tells Montresor that I drink for you. So that explains why his friend's name is Montresor. It tells us how much he cherished his friend. He trusts so blindly. As when he did that, the both of them continued their journey downstairs. They went so deep that they got to the final vault. At that time, there were so many piles of bones around. They were almost moving on piles of bones. And so Montresor turns around and tells Fortunato, you go in there, and that's some Amontillado. And so Fortunato stepped into the final crypt, a very tiny crypt, just a tiny hole that a human being can barely even fit into. So the guy got there and the wall ended. And so he stood there out of surprise. And so swiftly, Montresor chased him to the wall. It happened so fast. Now it got to a point where on that crypt, there's a chain on both sides. It hinges almost like the hinge on the walls. And so the guy was standing in the middle. And so before he could even know what was happening to him, Montresor has quickly chained him to the wall. And so he began to, shake the chains violently, trying to pull himself off, to rig himself free. But then I guess it was already too late. At that point, Montresor just quietly went down, grabbed a mortar and some rocks, and begins to pull up a wall, begins to build a wall. Now this guy is actually building a wall to suffocate his friend, but he does it so calm, so collected, that it's almost as if it's nothing. He continues to pull it up. At that point, the drunkenness in Fortunato's eyes clears off. That's when he realizes himself that all is not good. So he begins to plead and beg for his life and tell his friend that the lady Fortunato is waiting for us, my friend. But then it means nothing to Montresor, who is hell-bent on having this revenge. So he continues to build the wall, going up, up, and up. At that time, once the wall gets to an average man's shoulders, Fortunato begins to struggle violently as if to pull himself. He struggles so violently that Montresor feels as if he's going to break loose and attack him. So he pulls out his rapier and his sword, ready, just getting himself ready, should in case Fortunato pulls out himself, break free from the chains and attacks him, then he could fight for himself. But then Fortunato can't break off from the chains because the chains are just so strong for him to pull himself off. So at that point, my guy for Montresor goes back to work. He continues to build his wall. He goes right up to the level where it remains just one stone to finally seal the wall. At that point, he grabbed the stone and his hands were trembling because he knows that should he place this final rock, his friend in there suffocates and dies. And so he gradually places it in there and he builds the wall up. He completes the wall. And when he did that, the author tells us that for generations of generations, no one will ever know that such a crime was committed there, and the story ends. So you see that the Cask of Amontillado is a perfect crime committed in the perfect environment. But then the question as analyst is, what What are those ingredients? What are those tools? And how has Edgar Allan Poe been able to use them to good effect to ensure that this story achieves the ultimate goal of entertainment as well as to caution and educate us? Because take note that stories are not told for the sake of for the sake of one hearing hearing their voice. No, we tell stories to entertain and to educate. Better stay to caution. So in our next video, we are going to look at some of those crucial themes which the author has so discussed or developed in the course of the play, just in the course of the story, just to name them. There are quite a few of them. It is not very stretchy. Number one, there is revenge. There's a lot of it inside. It is not just any kind of revenge, but a very brutal one, the one that draws a lot of sympathy in the hearts and minds of the audiences towards the victim, Fortunado. We'll analyze that. Number two, murder. The way he carried out that revenge, that is murder of the first degree. Oh yes, that is murder. There's just no justification for what he did. And then number three, friendship and betrayal. The two of them are very close friends. They are, in fact, they are wine connoisseurs. They feel that they are experts in wine, and so they go, they enjoy the fact that they have this unrivaled knowledge of wine. So they are professional wine testers. Let me frame it that way. So we call them wine connoisseurs and very close friends too. But then for him to turn around and do that to his friend is what we really don't understand. So we're going to talk about friendship and betrayal. Other minor themes that we might also want to look at is a theme of drunkenness. Oh yes, Fortunato is drunk, and that explains why he gets killed so easily. So these themes are the major themes that drives our story. In our next video, we are going to expatiate more on them and see how they have been developed, and they will also focus on narrative techniques. What narrative techniques Edgar Allan Poe has deployed? Should the examiner touch on irony, humor, vivid description, pathos? Then you should be well plumbed for that and know how to handle that. So hit the subscribe button and don't move a muscle. I'll be back so we can break down these themes and you can start handling past case equations without necessarily going back to the novel. Just the analysis and the summary you have here can really get you ready to answer a full-fledged question using Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado. So ensure that you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you later on. And make sure that you share and give me a like. If I've done a great job, give me a like. Come on, I deserve it. So I'll see you later.